Hey y'all, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Dust or Mud podcast episode number 3. Here we go. All right. Well, I'm Rich.
I'm Shelley.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Busy.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Episode 2.
Yeah.
Recap.
Regenerative farming. How we farm.
Sort of our definition, the way we look at regenerative farming.
Yep. Yeah. Moving animals around, what it means to us, what we're doing to our land. If you're just tuning in and you've never listened to our podcast before, this is only number 3. Make sure you go back and listen to number 1, how we got here. Number 2, what we're doing while we're here.
And number 3.
Oh yeah. The joy, what is it titled? Joy and freedom of a shared goal. A little bit into the relationship and how our relationship, our marriage, family, and how coming together, working every day with a shared goal has impacted our lives.
Yeah. So this one's more like, I don't know. Open the door and let you in
on our lives,
on our relationship, really,
yeah,
between you and I.
Yeah.
How it is, how it's changed.
And how it's changed. I wouldn't say it's changed that much, but it definitely has evolved into something different.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay.
That's where we'll go.
All right. Well, thank you for the comments. On last week's episode, we had several really good comments and questions and things that made us think. We love it when people make us think. So if you've got something for us that's going to make us think, please put it in the comments. If you're, especially if you're on YouTube and you've watched it and you have something to say or add to it. One of the comments that kind of got me thinking was a friend of ours. She commented that they definitely are preppers at this point, and kind of got us, after I said that, we're not preppers. And it kind of got me thinking, well, am I really? Well, maybe not so much in the stereotypical sense. We don't have 35 years worth of packaged foods and oats sitting around the house, but we are in the mode of being prepared for anything that were to come our way, in the world, and trying to be prepared. And so maybe, I had to think of outside the box a little of my stereotype on that. And I guess
we had other friends point our attention to our pantry, which is technically a larder.
It's large. It's about a 10 by 10 room with
such a big pantry, and the vegetables and such that we've canned and said,
Well, maybe we are.
We like to be prepared. So one of the things afterwards that we talked about was maybe we just need to change the negative connotation to prepper, right? Like if you're just meaning someone who is prepared.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do we fit the stereotypical mold of a fallout shelter buried in the yard somewhere? No,
we don't
not necessarily.
fit the stereotypical mold of anything. Okay. Pretty much if people think we're going to go left, we probably go right.
Fair.
Yeah. We're independent, thinkers, and how can we independently and be self-sufficient? What does that look like to us? Okay.
Yeah, we had another comment I want to read. I'm enjoying being educated on the whole lifestyle you two have taken. Understanding you're fairly new to selling your beef, pork, and lamb products, do you feel you have a sustainable business model considering your expenses? I am assuming it's not inexpensive to purchase and raise the animals to get them ready for processing. By the way, quite the teaser for your next episode. So thank you, Grizz, for the comment and, again, making us think.
Yes.
Our plan is to dive way down deep into that during our next episode about poultry. The short answer to your question is we don't know.
Yeah.
The slightly longer answer is we hope so, and we're building it such that we think we can get there. So one of the key things that we're doing is layered enterprises, such that there are things that produce daily to every few weeks, to every few months, to every 6 months, to every few years. So in that, we're being able to get an amount of cash flow in And then from there, we think that we can build the business out from that. So we are still less than 2 years having animals on the farm, with the exception of guardian dogs, still less than 2 years from having animals on the farm. And the business is starting to pay its own bills. So that's a very encouraging thing for us, in that the business is honestly taking off and starting to take care of itself.
And he's right. He's so right. It is expensive. It's expensive the feed is ridiculously expensive whenever we're buying non-GMO feed.
Yeah.
And the livestock is, of course, expensive. That's your initial, major investment, outside of your property. But having to replenish the feed on an animal that isn't going to turn money for 6 months. Let's take the pigs, for example. There's a lot of money that goes into pigs before you get anything back. So our initial investment got us started, but then you run out of money, and now what are you going to do? Well, with any business, especially farming, cash is king here. And if we can continue to create the cash flow through the enterprises you were just talking about, and we'll get deeper into it, if we can keep, maintain cash flow, money going in, we can keep buying hay, feed, and, the consumables that are required on the daily basis.
Yeah. So certainly appreciate the question and for causing us to think. For those of you who know Shelley and I, we love the conversation that's involved with deep thought type of questions. So that was really cool. So farm update. Okay. What happened on the farm this week?
Well, we did a lot with the garden outside of the money-making farm. We did a lot with the garden. We put up a bunch of tomatoes, and we made some more of my, what I call rotel. We made Italian sauces. He picked more pickles. He didn't pick pickles. He picked more cucumbers, and I've sort of boycotted. I still haven't made pickles. I almost did yesterday. You almost got me. I don't want more pickles. And they were too big. They just need to go maybe somewhere else. I put some into I did put some of them up, but I'm done. Okay.
All right. The other thing we did, we control, and that'll be a little bit of a focus for this episode you'll hear, but we control our lambing dates by when we put the rams in with the ewes. And so we started having our lambs mid-May, and we're finished having lambs by mid-June. But this year, the ratio of male to female lambs was off a bit for us. We ended up having 21 ewe lambs and only 9 ram lambs. And the ewe lambs we use as replacements for the flock, and the ram lambs are the ones that we process to sell lamb. And so in order to overcome that, we one of our mentors in this regenerative practice had some ram lambs for sale. So this week we went and picked up 15 more ram lambs. So much the same way we do with our hogs, we buy feeder pigs and feed them out and then process them. We're going to do the same thing with at least a portion, about a third of the lamb that we processed this year. 2/3 of the lamb that we processed this year will be feeder lambs. So we were very excited to go get them and to be able to spend some time with our mentor and chatting through things. So that was a big addition to the farm this week, was the 15 lambs. And they are in with our bottle lambs that we've been feeding for the past couple of months. And so today was weaning day for the bottle lambs. That is a big deal for at least 5 of the animals on the farm. We had 7 bottle lambs. 2 of them haven't been drinking a bottle for a long time, but the 5 of them have. So big deal for them is that they don't get any more milk now.
Yeah. And then tomorrow we plan on separating the ewes from the big group of lambs, and everyone will be weaned as of tomorrow.
That's right. We'll have a lamb flock, and we will have a ewe flock. And the 2 rams, our breeding rams, are still in with our dairy cows. So really have 3 separate groups of sheep.
Yep.
And we'll have that until at least December, when the rams, our breeding rams, go in with the ewes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Cool.
That's the big farm update.
That's a big farm update.
Yeah, so
it's always something.
Today, topic of the day, the joy and freedom of a shared goal. So we wanted, as we were talking through doing this podcast, we didn't want it to be just a, hey, here's what's going on the farm. We really wanted to talk more about us and what we're doing with the hopes of building a community, and by sharing our vulnerability, maybe others would be willing to open up and share, and then we can build a community off of that. Mm-hmm. So in part of the thought really behind the podcast, we decided that we were going to share about our relationship
mm-hmm.
and how we actually do this thing from a interpersonal relationship perspective, and not just, here's how we mix feed kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Here we go today, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah, here we go. Okay, and we'll try not to. It's not all good and it's not all bad. So hopefully there'll be quite the balance in the conversation.
Yeah, we don't want it to come across as either, right?
No, right.
Because it's great and it's difficult.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I remember the first day that we were. One of the first days we were on the farm and we were working. We were sitting on the tailgate of our problem truck, if anyone knows, the white F-350 that just seems to just be our problem truck. Well, anyway, we're sitting on the tailgate of it, and he'd been weed eating, and this was literally week 1. And we were sitting there, and both of us were like, this is our life. This is so amazing. We get to do this every day and work together. And it was just wonderful because we felt the freedom, the joy of spending time together, because we do enjoy each other's company, or we would not be doing this lifestyle. And we were enjoying the process of beginning the work on the land. We were feeling the freedom of not being connected to the Air Force anymore at that point.
Yeah, I remember the conversation.
Yeah.
We wanted this to be impromptu, so here you go.
Yeah, here you go.
I remember that in the conversation, I said to you, do you know who told me to weed eat today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did.
No one.
No
one is who told me to weed eat today.
Yeah.
We did this because this is exactly what we wanted to do today.
Yeah, and it was the joy it was just come over us, of the even thinking about this could be our life.
Yeah.
Together, doing this type of thing together every day. Yeah. So that's was the honeymoon. A little bit,
Yeah. So fast forward maybe 6 weeks, and we got the first sheep onto the farm, and we started doing rotational grazing with our sheep.
Yes.
And we had purchased sheep nets from Premier One Fencing and solar chargers.
Yeah.
And we were now having to try to set up sheep nets. It was very hot. It was,
hot.
Mid to late September. It was really hot. And our pastures were very overgrown, very brushy,
waist high.
Yeah, at least 2.5, 3 feet high of pretty thick brush, definitely grass, but a whole lot of brush. And we had to figure out, how do we get these nets set up in the pasture such that there's still electricity flowing through the nets, because we were very concerned with predators coming in and getting to the sheep. So obviously I got some survey stakes.
Yes, he did.
And measured out 164 feet of survey string, because that's the length of the net.
Yes.
And we found one corner, and we measured 164 feet in a cardinal direction.
That's right.
I believe we started in the northwest corner of the square that we were making,
yes,
because it had to be a square.
Uh-huh.
And we measured 164 feet towards the east.
Yep.
And found the corner.
Mm-hmm.
and then had to figure out how do we make a 90-degree turn, because if you don't make a 90-degree turn,
it's not going to be a square. It's not going to
measure
be
a square.
It
it's
won't
not going to
connect.
match out, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we make 90-degree turns now? And we were able to stake out the four corners.
Oh my God.
The four corners
I forgot about this.
of the paddock.
Good.
And then once we had the four corners staked out, then we could mow a path so that we could have the netting up without having the grass grounded out. But then we wanted to cut that into quadrants.
Yes. Now we have to.
So now we had to find the middle.
Yeah.
Of
164 feet by 164, and
we had to find the middle of the square, and then once we found the middle of the square, then we could find the middle of each side. And
the
then once
evolution of farming.
And once we found the middle of each side, we could then stake off the middle of each side to the middle of the square, and then we could mow 2 more lines, and then we had 4 quads, and then we had to figure out
how many nets is that going to take?
How many nets? So you want to use the minimum number of nets, but you need it to be easy to move the sheep. So we found how to use the nets.
And they say you don't use geometry when you're older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that the other day, and for a fighter pilot, you come up with the plan and you brief the plan, and then you expect to execute flawlessly. No, you never will, and then debrief how to get to flawless execution next time. And I remember being quite frustrated with the squares not being perfect, and the nets not matching up exactly in the middle once we had measured it out.
Yeah, there was some overlap sometimes, or we had to pull them tight because it
didn't even meet other times.
Yeah.
And so this was really, from a work perspective, probably Shelley's first introduction to actual working with me.
Yeah.
And we had, about that time, we had learned that we needed to communicate with each other, and we really needed to talk about what we were thinking and what we were doing. And so I started talking about the thoughts that were in my brain. And for a type A fighter pilot type person,
that's colorful. That's
what
that is.
When things don't necessarily match up perfectly, it is not positive talk.
No.
And so I would share my thoughts with Shell, and that took some getting used to. I think
it took on my end.
Yeah,
it took getting used to.
Yeah. So and then on my end, so now she's now subject to all of the negative thoughts that are whirling around in my brain when things don't work out perfectly. But for me, that's just part of life, part of work.
Yeah.
You know, you try to do it perfectly, it doesn't work. You complain about it and you talk about it, and then you figure out how you're going to make it work perfectly next time. I think to you, it was like, oh my gosh, he's not happy, he's mad.
How can I fix this?
Yeah,
what do I need to do to make this better so that you don't have to feel like that?
Yeah, and for me, it was just, look, this is life. This is daily life, right? Like we want it to go perfectly. It doesn't. We get mad about it and we complain and stuff, and then we debrief what went wrong, and then we talk about how we're going to do it better next time, and then just move on, right? Like that's it. It's flushed. Now we keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bit of a change for you.
Yeah, we were about 3 or 4 months in. Yeah, when I really started understanding like how you thought at work, not how you thought at home. Because after 29 years or whatever it was of you constant, you're at work and I'm at home, and we spend evenings and we spend weekends together. Well, that's just the fun part of life, and but we didn't work together. I did my work independently. You did your work independently, and with the people at work. You were a different person in the Air Force, in that job. You had to be. I understand that. I understand the demands that are placed on, people, doing that job. The requirements are what they are. And I understand that. It was the part that I had a hard time understanding was how do I do this? How do I be someone who works with you in this environment? Because I don't really, like that. And do you change? Do I change? And where do we go from there?
Yeah.
Still very happy with the situation, but it would just be like, sometimes it would be like, oh, I don't know this side.
Yeah.
It isn't an I don't know you. It was an I don't know this side.
Yep. And for me, it was sort of, it wasn't even frustrating. It was just curious that when it wouldn't match up perfectly, you were okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it was just an interesting thing to see, like, it made me think, like, where am I missing this? Like, how do I get to, it's really okay.
Yeah, right. Well, just the differences in our separate lives, whenever we were both doing something completely different. I was dealing with kids and teenagers. It went never right.
Right.
Yeah. You work, you clean the house, do the kitchen, do whatever. And like in 30 seconds, it's going to be over. Just enjoy it. And so just the differences, the like stark contrast of the lives and the work that we did.
Yeah.
Now, how do we bring that together?
Even, fast forward a few months and we started building the house, and the contractor that came in to do the concrete and the structure part of the house,
mm-hmm.
he sort of goaded me a little bit and poked fun and was like, it's not life and death, Rich.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
well, that was one thing that you had to learn, and are still in the process, I think, some days. But you've walked back like hugely on it, over the past 2 years. Everything is not life or death like it is in an airplane.
Yeah.
Everything can be life or death. It is one or that is the other. And here it's just not. Regular, just normal, run-of-the-mill life, nobody's going to die, maybe,
Most likely.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, figuring out how to differentiate between this is actually serious and you should probably be concerned, and really it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if I may, I'm going to just backtrack just one little bit about the sheep and us and our, neuroses over the over the sheep nets. And we did have to do some of it the way it was because the grass was so tall. We could have just bush hogged it. We had a tractor. We could have, but we didn't. I think we would now. Actually, we don't farm like that at all anymore. I would like to just point out the fact that our sheep are on a hill, and they don't barely have it. We have actual perimeter fence, but they're on the other side of that hot wire. Okay, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I guess they needed more to eat, and they want to eat it over there. If we want to control them, we can.
Yeah.
And right now, we've relaxed a lot, in that.
Yeah.
In that
Yeah,
aspect
we have.
Of animal control.
Yeah.
Turn the dog loose. That'll be fine.
Right.
We've relaxed a lot. But, you kind of do that with kids, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got them tight. And then, when they're little, and then as they get older and everybody knows what they're doing, we kind of relax a little bit and let them have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
And hope they don't hang themselves.
Yeah.
With the rope you give them.
So, for me, it was the learning to work with you was a slow down, think about it, and then potentially make my own decision that it isn't necessarily as important as it feels like it is to me right now. And then not, I still try very hard to share the thoughts, but really maybe try to change my thoughts so that it's not a life or death reaction from me if the sheep net doesn't match up perfectly,
Right.
if it's 1 foot off.
Yeah. So I think that the main thing that we have learned and can expound on is the absolute essentialness of good communication.
Yeah,
Not just communication.
right.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to communicate, but good communication, clear, communication. Daily, what do we do? How do we start our days every single day, with a cup of coffee and
Yeah, we just call it our morning staff meeting because
coming from that world.
Different times through different leadership positions. Like when I was a squadron commander, my director of operations would come into my office every morning and every afternoon.
Yeah.
And every morning we would have our own leadership staff meeting, and we would talk about, okay, what are we doing for the day? And then every afternoon it was, okay, how did we do? It was an actual debrief of the day. And then pretty much the same as the director, my last job, I would sit down with CDN almost every morning, whether at his desk or my desk, and we would talk about, here's what's going on for the day. And so it was really ingrained in me that level of communication between the folks that are actually responsible for the goings on of the operation was very, very important. So we sit down every morning, first thing, and have our first pot of coffee.
I literally get a weather brief first.
Well,
First, weather brief. Every morning, first thing. Like 2 sips of coffee, weather brief. Sometimes I don't remember it, but that's okay. He does.
we have to know if it's dust or mud.
That's right. And right now it's mud.
It's definitely
it's
mud.
so mud. It's so much mud. Yeah. Okay. So we, daily impact on working together. We have our morning staff meeting, drink our coffee, and talk about the weather. And based on the weather, what we can get done today, because sometimes it's an inside day, sometimes it's a barn day, sometimes we've got a whole bunch of things to do outside. We plan accordingly. Sometimes it's a lot to do outside because maybe we have a storm coming and we have to the weather does dictate our life, which is not a whole lot different than, in your other life, flying airplanes. It dictates everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of, we make our plan, based on that. And we will sit right there in our recliners and we will make the most, thoughtful, laid out plan for the day and walk out the door.
Yeah.
And it could not, the sheep could be doing something weird. The dog is, got the sheep moved to somewhere that it's not supposed to be. There could be a water leak on a waterer. And then right there, just like that, we have to be flexible and go, all that stuff that we thought we were going to do just dropped on the list. And this just went to the top, of the priorities.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to switch the priorities is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, if you don't know what the priority is, you can't really switch it up. If you're just sort of, wandering with no rudder, there aren't priorities at all. So being able to chat them over and then adjust from there, I think is important.
Yeah, yeah. But as far as marriage, life, working together, that is a whole new thing. We never, having never actually worked. This is a business. We're running a real thing here and working together. And who's in charge? And what's gonna, when we're doing something, who takes the lead on what? The house still has to be cleaned. The yard still needs to be mowed. We used to have gender-oriented tasks, I guess, maybe sometimes. But now everything just needs to be done always. And deciding on the, who's going to tackle this or who's going to tackle that is, I think we're getting more in the groove. After 2 years, you taking, a lot of the stuff on the computer, or as I take stuff, making sure that the milk is, whatever with the customers and stuff. So we kind of fall into our roles, or we have kind of, sort of landed there.
Well, we adjusted to there, right? For the first, I don't know, maybe 18 months of doing this, we did everything together.
Everything. Yeah, because he would say to me, that's why we're doing this, to be together. You did.
I know.
And you weren't wrong.
No.
But every now and then I'd say...
I may have taken it a little extreme.
A little extreme.
No way.
Yeah. And
That never happened.
And so, every now and then I would say, we might want to divide and conquer on this one. It isn't that I don't want to be with you, but somebody's got to vacuum the house, or this needs to be done and that needs to be done. We can't choose. So you pick whichever one you want to do. I don't care which one. And I'll do the other one.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to get a little better at that.
I do.
Yeah.
I think like most folks talk about change as a pendulum swing, but I don't think we've really swung past, to where we're just doing separate things now.
Right.
Like, I believe that we've come more towards a middle of doing most things together, and the things that can be or need to be done separately, we do.
Yeah.
And don't either one feel slighted, because there are things that, I can pick the tomatoes while you're canning the tomatoes, and that's just okay. We don't actually both have to pick or both have to can.
Yeah.
And that has been, it may sound silly, but it's been a transition. It's been a bit of a change for us to get to there.
Yeah.
It was so important, when we made this decision and we talked about, do we retire completely and do this life? One of the things that we talked about was, what would we buy if we continued to have a job? Like, if we had more income, what would we buy?
Right.
And my immediate answer when you asked me that was time. I would buy time. And so it was so important.
Well, you said time with my family.
Yeah, time with my family.
Not just
That's
time.
what I would buy.
I would buy time with my family.
And then we discussed that. It's like, well, while very expensive from a potential earnings perspective, we can get there by just retiring.
Yes.
And so then when you take that, especially in my mind where I'm prone...
I'm buying my time. I'm not at work. I'm buying everything has a...
Yeah. And prone to take things to a bit of an extreme. Now, okay, if this was the decision that I made, was I did this whole thing to have time with you, then here we go. I'm having time with you, And so like the sheep nets, it's been, for me at least, it's been a series of, okay, walk it back just a little bit. We don't have to go quite as far extreme, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's working. It's working well. It's been adjustments, but they haven't been like, we need to do this adjustment. We've just kind of made some adjustments, seeing where it needs to be made. Yeah. Yeesh. Okay. And I would recommend to anybody who is considering, it's not just the farming lifestyle. It's, people who are coming up on retirement and thinking they want to go live, whether you're wanting to do an RV life or whether you're wanting to do, a homestead life, or just go sit in a condo on the beach life.
Yeah.
You just probably spent the majority of your adult life apart. And to be honest, often like when we deploy and redeploy, you're going to have to get used to each other. And, more than likely, you don't know who the other person really is on the other half of their life. And, be flexible and give yourself time and the opportunity to, feel that out. Communicate a lot about what you're thinking.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So back to the shared goals. We have shared goals. We even sat down right before we even came here. We were still living in Maryland, and we wrote down our goals. We wrote down our why. We came up with 5-year goals together so that we were both on the same page.
Yeah.
And, I don't know where we are in all of those right this second. That's something I think we should revisit and see if we're, I know we're on the right track, but I don't know, exactly specifically, each goal, have we hit that target yet? But, we're definitely fulfilling our why.
Yeah.
Every day together. And that, of course, is worth getting up every day.
Yeah, for real.
Mm-hmm.
It sure is.
So, we also have experiences, every day as we go along towards these shared goals that we have. And not all of them are good. Another story, we hadn't had cows very long. And we were moving some sheep. We were checking on the sheep, actually, in one pasture. And we hadn't had cows for very long, a little while. But he looked up and he goes, there goes our cows up the driveway headed towards the road, which is a county dirt road, but out the property. And of course we jumped on the side by side and just, went as fast as we could and jumped in front of them and stopped them and turned them around and, sort of sent them back towards the pasture they were supposed to be in. So that kind of leads to how they got out. Why did they get out? And then what was our sort of response? It was very early on this farm.
Yeah, so we had the cows down in one of our bottom pastures, and we had segregated the pasture into different paddocks,
Mm-hmm.
and we did that with a single wire of polywire electrified.
The cows
And
came to us trained.
The cows know,
They
and they
knew.
respect the wire,
Right.
and all is well. Well, because all is well and the cows respect the wire, we left the gates open to the pasture. Because we had them controlled with the single polywire. If you know anything about electricity and animals, it is a psychological barrier. It is not a physical barrier, right? A physical barrier is a fence that they can't get through. That's a physical barrier. Psychological is, I don't really want to touch that wire because it hurts.
So I'll stay here.
So I'll stay here. Well, it turns out that some folks were running coyotes with their hound dogs, and the hound dogs ran through the pasture with the cows. The cows, whether right or wrong, thought the dogs were chasing them, and all of a sudden the psychological barrier was no longer a barrier.
Ran right through the wire, kept on running.
Yeah,
Turned
so-
the corner,
Yeah,
and out they were coming.
They went to the end of the pasture. The gate was open. Out they went. They turned the corner, and they don't know where they were going, but they were going there, and they were going there quickly.
Yeah.
So one of the key takeaways was maintain control of the situation. And for us, a psychological barrier isn't necessarily control. It's close, but it's not actual control.
Right. We did end up spending about 6 hours looking for two of our cows that happened to be in the trees very near the pasture that they were in, but you can't see a cow in the trees very well. They can disappear like nobody's business. And so we spent a lot of time trying to get them back where they belonged. And
Yeah, my Apple Watch told me I walked about 10 miles during
Yeah, it was
that
a
episode of up and down the hills
Yeah.
trying to find the cows. I mean, at one point, the cows that we were trying to get back into the pasture had gone up the hill towards the national forest. I mean, like it was quite the ordeal.
It was.
And so the learning experience coming out of that really was
maintain control.
Yeah, maintain control. We didn't shut the gate because of the time that it takes to get out and open and close the gate.
Yeah.
Or get off the side-by-side and open and close the gate.
Oh, they'll
And-
be fine. I mean, they don't go anywhere. They haven't gone anywhere all this time.
Yeah. So we learned
Yeah.
definitely to
Maintain control.
maintain control.
And that was early on, and now you learn through your experiences, and we've learned a lot. I mean, we've learned so much about farming and animal husbandry, animal control.
And on that one, if you remember right, Shell, I was behind the herd of animals that we were trying to get back into the pasture, and I had gotten the bulldog eyes rolled back into
That's
my
right.
nugget. These animals are going right back into the pasture that we just had them in because that's where I want them.
And they're going there.
And they're going there.
By golly.
By golly.
Yeah.
And here we go. And I was behind them, and we went up and down the hills and through the pastures and around, and finally
Somebody said, "Why don't
you
we?"
said, "Hey, why don't we just close the gate
and leave them in this pasture
and
right
leave
here."
them in this pasture, the one that they were in, that I was trying to chase them out of to get them back to the pasture that
and
I
let them
wanted
like calm down, because they're like wily-eyed.
And so
Everybody was wily-eyed.
it was, including me,
Yeah.
and it was one of those where the absurdity of what I was doing and the absolute common sense of what you suggested somehow broke through the trance that I was in. And it's like, fine, let's just close the gate.
And we did.
And so we closed the gate, and then everybody calmed down. And it was like, oh.
Yeah. And we found the 2 cows. They were literally in the trees right near the pasture where they were.
Right. And we had to open one gate and say, come on, cows.
Yeah. And they went in.
Here they went.
And, all of that was human. The cows just did what cows do.
Yeah.
And generally that's the case, with our animals, is they do what animals do.
Yeah, exactly.
But so last week, whenever we got the ram lambs, we did not just back up and turn them loose. We needed to do a few things to them, and we were driving along like, oh, we can put them in this pen, we can put them in the cow pens, and then we could work them, all this. And we're just like, oh, wait. How about we leave them on the trailer, bring the stuff to them, tend to them on the trailer, not even on the trailer, on half of the trailer, because we had it cut in half with the door, and like everybody just in one small spot.
Yeah.
And we'll just do them all right here, and then we'll let them go.
We'll let everybody out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So lessons learned.
Yeah, maintaining control there was definitely key.
Yeah.
Whenever you bring an animal onto the farm for the first time, they're freaked out, no matter where they're coming
They've
from.
been riding in a loud, hot trailer.
Yeah, so they're giving them time to relax. So maintaining control while we were wanting to do things to them was great. So keep them tight, keep them controlled, get the stuff done, turn them loose, let them calm down and relax. Not turn them loose and then try to round them back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are learning.
Yeah, we're learning. Yeah, maintain control.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like something you've said over the years, Aircraft.
Yeah.
Whatever, maintain control, for sure.
Maintain aircraft control.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So as far as our dreams and our aspirations, go with the farm, with the business, with our family, the land. We built the house, check.
Yeah.
And as we go forward, it's not. I don't feel like, I don't know if you do, but I don't feel like, oh, I've arrived. All the dreams are done.
Oh no. No, not even close.
Or the aspirations.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I can put a finger on all of it either.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's to me, it really is like we're cliche living the dream, right? Like this is what we wanted to do, and daily we get up and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But as I guess it's just the way we're wired. But the what's the next and what's the next. We talked about the farm is now making, the products are now making some and able to, pay its own bill, which was the goal. If the farm can sustain itself, we pay our bills. If the farm can pay its bills, we're winning. Is that the end all be all? Are we going further forward? Do we want more, or do we want to pull back and go, in another direction? And that's something we communicate with each other, and we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Where do we were just talking about pulling back on a few things the other day.
Yeah.
And communication, again, has been key and essential in all of it.
Yeah.
So does that kind of cover
I think so.
enough about us for right this second?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
And we still have to, we can be business partners, and we can be mom and dad. So we've worked in that aspect, in that realm before, having to make decisions constantly. But, to anyone listening, we also like each other, and we have to maintain, the husband-wife, relationship too.
Yeah.
I think that because there's just a lot going on, I think that is that is a place where we could probably work and do better at, lack of a better word, the romance side of our, of life. Taking time, going on dates, whether it's just riding, taking a toddy toodle down to the river or, creek or whatever, and taking time for just you and I.
Yeah.
So I think
it is easy to fall into a work type relationship.
Yeah. And, to remember to also focus on the non-work side.
Mm-hmm.
Easier in the winter when it's not, the days aren't so long.
Yeah, right. Yeah. For sure.
So I think that's as far as the debriefing is concerned, I think that's a place where you and I could do a little, extra work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I sprung the impromptu segment on you last week with the current events.
Yes,
so
you did.
I think that you sort of saw this one coming since I had done it.
Well, I wasn't sure if it was a regular thing in your brain.
Yeah, so in my brain it's a regular thing. So current event, here you go. I'm gonna just sort of read a little current event, and we'll get you to respond to it. So there's a case going on right now, brought by the Missouri Attorney General. It is Missouri et al. V. Joseph R. Biden Jr. et al. The summary is: public statements, emails, and publicly released documents establish that the President of the United States and other senior officials in the Biden administration violated the First Amendment by directing social media companies to censor viewpoints that conflicted with the government's messaging on a certain event. Now, the charge is that the insidious censorship was the direct result of the federal government's campaign to silence those who voice perspectives that deviate from those of the Biden administration, and that censorship struck at the heart of what the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was designed to protect: free speech, especially political speech. The Attorney General was granted a motion from a federal judge to block the Biden administration from communicating with social media companies about suppressing posts on certain events. So, what do you think?
Yay, free Missouri.
Yeah?
Yeah. Go, Attorney General
Bailey.
Yeah, I appreciate your work there, sticking your neck out.
Yeah. I believe it was brought initially by Schmidt, who preceded him, but Bailey's taken on taken the baton, if you will, and is really sprinting with it right now.
I don't really know that all of the angle inside the politics that he has, or Missouri, or a little bit, but not. It doesn't matter, or what the politics is on the other side of it, or what they think. My thing is, whatever it is, freedom of speech being attacked in that way, that's scary.
So I think if you were to boil it down, it was the government pressured the social media sites to remove posts that did not agree with what the government saw as fact. So the government decided what was fact, and then forced social media companies to remove speech that was contrary to what the government said.
That sounds like other countries from, back in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So
it does. That's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what Stalin did.
Right.
That's what, that's what they did in Germany in the 1930s.
Yeah. So
it sounds very Orwellian, but we're living it.
Yeah. So, from my perspective, it's the freedom of speech is very, very important. Having spent 25 years supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States, the idea that, the right to speak out against the government is being squashed by the government is
unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one. Often in my blogs, I say hi from Free Missouri, and that's not a city. That's a state of being.
That's not a city.
I believe that in this particular state, we do enjoy a lot of freedoms. Having lived all over the world, in this particular state, we enjoy a lot of freedoms, even more so than folks in other states inside these United States. And I'm trying to draw a little bit of attention to that by referring to it as Free Missouri.
Yeah.
And on this one, I say hooray to the Attorney General and keep up the good work.
That's right.
This is a good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely one worth falling on your sword for, them. Not, I mean, I don't have to do that. I'm a civilian, but I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I really am.
Yeah.
If we can't speak out against our government, either side,
right,
any of it.
Yep.
I don't care what your opinion is.
Right.
I want you to be able to say it.
Yeah.
You fought for that. I supported that. Our friends fight for that and support that. Our kids are fighting for that very right. Whether I agree with you or not, you have the right to say your piece.
That's all part of the whole American experience.
That's right.
Is we don't have to agree.
And let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, all right. Current event. That's good. We're going to do that up. All right. All right. Well, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, make sure you go back and check out our episode 1, who we are, why we're here, episode 2, what we're doing. And we'll carry on this conversation next week as we kind of dive into some more farming stuff. Chickens.
Yeah. Next week is the joys of pasture-raised poultry. So we will go deep into that enterprise on the farm.
Yep.
We'll share the story of the beef chicken. What is a beef chicken?
That's right.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully have another interesting current event, maybe.
Maybe not too interesting.
If we can find something.
Stuff is happening. Yeah. If you do enjoy this, please give us a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, share it on your social media if you can, or would choose to. It really helps out the algorithms to know people are watching it, and then it will show it to more people. That's the way the AI works. Well, is it AI?
Yes.
Okay.
So sort of.
Okay.
And for me especially, the comments are very, very helpful.
Oh, yeah. Keep on coming.
The insightful comments really give us something to think about and give us some fodder that we know is interesting to you that we can then chat about. So please do keep the comments coming. And just one last thing. If you're still listening to this, my one thing is, in your relationships, if you choose to work together and you choose to do life together, please, please, please have compassion. Realize that the other person is not trying to piss you off. Communicate with one another, and just try to take a small breath and enjoy life. Hear, hear. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. I just had to get that out. I want to wrap that up. Okay. So there you go. Okay. Well, until next week, everybody, take care. Bye, y'all. Bye, y'all.